So this is a question which was attempted by Animesh in one of the Samachar Manthan classes. This is the structure. He has identified the demand of the question in 3 blocks. If I'm able to prepare myself to answer in these 3 ways, half of the job for my mains is done. UPSC mains and writing a perfect answer depends upon balancing the depth and breadth of your examination preparation. Keep this picture in your mind, because by the end of the session, each and every answer you should be able to develop this mind map in your brain.
I started my full-fledged preparation after I joined the Ultimate Assessment Program at Civilsdaily.
There is a 12-month strategy which I have done on Civilsdaily platform only.
I reached out to the Civilsdaily team.
Civilsdaily. Current affairs में Civilsdaily.
Civilsdaily.
Civilsdaily. With Civilsdaily.
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 Civilsdaily. To Civilsdaily.
Civilsdaily.
Civilsdaily. Civilsdaily.
Civilsdaily.
A mentorship program of Civilsdaily, and that did help me a lot.
Hello, everybody. A very good evening to all of you. So, how many of you have given mains or have prepared for mains ever before? And you or have watched videos of toppers, be it on YouTube or any coaching institute or anywhere? Have you watched the videos of toppers who have cleared mains? Or you have, okay, Prashant, you have given mains, right? Well, okay, then you must have watched some videos from some senior or maybe someone who was giving you, be it a mentor or a faculty. So if I ask you all, what is a perfect answer? What would be your reply? What are the ingredients or elements that make up for a perfect answer? Now, Prashant has said does not exist. Now, this is clearly an answer of someone who has given mains. Okay. Perfect, satisfying the demand of the question. Okay, but how do you do that? The truth is actually what Prashant said. Nobody knows what a perfect answer is because you don't get the checked answer sheet from UPSC. But there are some ingredients or elements based on which we prepare for mains. I'm asking those elements. If I say, I can tell them as 1 dimensions, 2 structure, and 3 language. Of all the tips which you have got till now, or which you will be getting in the future years, I hope there's just 1 year. Broadly, this is what everybody tells you. हाँ, इसके basis पे you have to write then your intro, body, conclusion. But जो skills which you have to obtain for writing an answer is dimensions, which essentially comes through how much of content you have read. Then obviously how you write the answer, how you structure your answer. And then third, how are you using the language? Matlab, is it legible and understandable or not? Am I okay till now? Everybody who has been attending? All of you are with me till this? Okay. If anywhere you feel that you're not agreeing to what I'm telling, you can put forward your doubts or questions or criticisms. Now, structure and language is something which you develop while writing more answers. You get feedback. You get you compare your marks and your papers with your peers or seniors. But where the issue first issue at hand and the primary issue at hand is you should know the content in and out to write an answer. Now, this is easier said than done. How are you going to make a multi-dimensional content so that you get the maximum marks out of a particular question? Now, this is what is the topic of today's webinar. How do you generate dimensions? Even if you have read a particular topic, But still, writing it from multiple angles is what differentiates your answers from others. And we will not be talking a lot about strategy or anything. We will be taking a few live examples and demonstrating how do you generate dimensions. And especially we are going to talk in the context of current affairs. Why in the context of current affairs? We'll get to know. So this is what our headline for today's topic is. All of you, are you aware of the UPSC syllabus? Just say a yes or no. Because that is the primary tool for you scoring good marks in exam. Okay, if you're aware of the UPSC syllabus, then your half of the job is done. Why is it so? I'll show you now. First, let us take a multidimensional answer and look at it and see what basically a multidimensional answer is, which fetches the maximum marks. Let us not go into the perfect answer, but nearly perfect answer. So this is a question which was attempted by Animesh in one of the Samachar Manthan classes. The question was fairly simple. What is hate speech? What are the major reasons for the growth of hate speech, the consequences of it, and steps that can be taken to deal with hate speech? Very direct. We are not going into the difficult or the indirect questions right now, because first let us develop the skill, then we can look into some other form of questions. Now, this was a very direct question. Now, if you see, he has clearly specified what are the different parts of this particular question. First part, major reasons for hate speech. Then he has moved into consequences of hate speech. Then he has talked about steps taken to deal with hate speech. This is the structure. He has identified the demand of the question in 3 blocks. Introduction and conclusion to hai. So I'm not talking about introduction and conclusion in today's way. Now let us go deeper into the points. What does he write? Major reasons for hate speech. He talks about majoritarianism, social media, lack of legal and institutional framework, subjectivity. And in the consequences, he writes about how it's leading to political unrest, how it's leading to communal riots, what are the economic damages it's causing, and what are the democratic principles it is hampering. Now, if I have to put a structure on this, you will see majoritarianism is a political philosophy. Then he moves into social media. This is a very good point because he talks about anonymity and reach algorithms of social media, which are essentially very technological oriented points. But it is one of the reasons for propagation of hate speech. Then you have lack of legal and institutional framework and subjectivity with respect to freedom of speech and expression. These are again points which are directly coming from your polity portion. When you go into the consequences, he talks about communal riots. This comes from which section of the syllabus? Communalism in society. Then he talks about economic damages. Again, this is driven by economic thought. Now, if you see the answer or the basic 2 parts of the answer, you will find he has covered various dimensions here. And which actually, as one of you said, he uses various subjects to meet the demand of the question. Because hate speech, majority of the answers which I saw that year, it was the question was direct, Harsh. The question was what was hate speech, major reasons and consequences. In such direct questions, what I majorly saw was people were either swayed by social media or majoritarianism or one aspect of it. But to include even the technological part, by technological part, I mean when he talks about reach algorithms or society wala part, or the economic wala part, that is where his answer stands out against the all. Remember, UPSC मेंस is a very relative exams. आप जैसे पेपर लिख रहे हो और मैं एग्जामिनर हूं, तो आपसे पहले whoever writes the exam, how he is performing, that is how my mindset is going to be while checking your paper. Now, if I see a paper which has a multidimensional look and feel of it, of the answer, and is answering relevant to the demand of the question, that takes away a lot of marks from the one who has attempted unidimensional. Now, I think most of us are clear what I mean when I say what is a multidimensional answer. If I have to put it, what are the three determinants of a multidimensional answer? First, you need to have a comprehensive understanding of the subject matter. That is very, very, very important. Fundamental understanding and the conceptual understanding should be so clear that you are able to analyze it in a comprehensive way. So whatever you do, whatever themes or however good material you use, but your understanding of topic is primary. Second part is how you present the answer. If I go back to this particular slide, it's very clear the demands of the question, reasons, consequences, and steps. And third, it has to have a balanced argumentation. It should not show any of your bias on the paper. Now, if I'm able to prepare myself to answer in these three ways, half of the job for my mains is done. Now, if I see here, you will find determinants across this particular answer. We'll come back to that again. But our point of discussion today is current affairs and means. Now, we know what a multiple dimensional answer is till now. But where does it become tricky is when questions from current affairs directly appear in mains. If you see civil services mains paper in question 2024, there are 10 questions which have had a direct relation to the current affairs of that year, whether be it one nation, one election principle, the executive versus legislative debate, which was constantly going on, which appeared in the form of cabinet system versus the parliamentary supremacy. Then there was talk of merger of local and rural local bodies and urban local bodies, which again appeared. So if I say 10 directly have come from current affairs in the year 2024, but why it is difficult to appear current affairs at the examination hall, it's because of three specific reasons. First, most of the news is one-sided. The news, when you come across, say, simultaneous elections. If I take simultaneous elections as a current affairs topic, in any particular article or 3 to 4 articles you read, you will find it will be talking mostly about election expenses and how it will be easier to manage elections. कोई 2-3 एस्पेक्ट पे ही करंट अफेयर्स के न्यूज और उसके एनालिसिस आते हैं. दैट इज द ट्रूथ. Now, if I tell you another similar question, say for example, problems in agri marketing. If you see the current affairs of this particular topic, it will be on one particular aspect which must be in news during that phase. For example, it could be on APMC. और वो एक महीना पूरा APMC के ऊपर ही बात हो रहा होगा. But when the question comes with respect to agri marketing, this will just be one point. That is why most of the aspirants, where they falter is they go into the depth of the one particular issue which is in current affairs during that phase, and they completely miss the breadth of it. Remember, this is an exam for the generalists, so you have to have the ability to analyze a particular topic from multiple aspects. Your depth will come from second point. When you're able to analyze agri marketing in a comprehensive way, and then you're able to link it with the static part of agriculture, there is where you will show the examiner that you have sufficient amount of depth on that particular topic. It is not the current affairs which will show the depth of your preparation to the examiner. It is always the static which will show you the depth, whereas the current affairs will show the breadth. But when will it show the breadth? Breadth matlab multidimensionality. When you have understood a particular issue and you have ready frameworks to put it there in the exam. So if I summarize our entire conversation till now, I can say UPSC mains and writing a perfect answer depends upon balancing the depth and breadth of your examination preparation. Am I clear till now? Because now it is going to be more content heavy. If anybody has any question or doubt or is not able to catch up with what I'm telling, you can please shoot questions at me. Okay. Okay. So now these are the three major issues while handling current affairs and mains. This is set. But our question or point of discussion is, how do we handle these three? These were the three problems. One-sided news, connecting current affairs with static syllabus is hard, and balancing depth and breadth becomes important. You read your static books. That is where I'm coming to, Aditya. Then you read your current affairs. These are something which each and every person who's filling up the form 60 to 70% would be doing. What will separate you from the rest, or as we just talked about the frameworks which Animesh used, we are going to delve more into that, how we will accept this challenge and move ahead, is through these two aspects. First is intersection, second is frameworks. Now, what are these and how do you develop these skills? तो अनिमेश का जो अभी आंसर हमने देखा, it had these four aspects, right? Technology, economics, society angle, and polity angle. Keep this picture in your mind, because by the end of the session, each and every answer you should be able to develop this mind map in your brain. Now, these जो four circles दिख रहे हैं, they may not be these four. Multidimensional किसी question में environment भी हो सकता है, but it should look something like this, and your answer will lie in the middle of all these various dimensions. Now, if I say here, if I take this answer again, first do one thing. Can you identify the various dimensions here? Identify it subject wise. You may not identify it very specifically. Majoritarianism, if I say this is polity, we talked about this is again tech. These aspects constitutional, political unrest, and civic disabilities, again this is a polity. Then you have communal riots, which is from society. This is economics, and this is again concepts of polity. It talks about democratic principles. Then in implementation, it talks about acts, and then here it talks about institutions. Then here he talks about committees and law commissions. So these are the basic frameworks, which here the intersections which Animesh has taken to write the answer. Then second part is framework. So this is very important. This is where your depth and breadth both will enhance. So if I say hate speech, what do you understand by hate speech? It is a complex socio-political phenomenon influenced by various factors. If I had to divide it into elements, what would be the four basic elements of it? Elements may not, अब challenges या way forward के respect में मत सोचो. Basic जब hate speech की बात आती है, you will see four basic elements which are there in every news article which you come across. First is majoritarianism. It's a place where dominant group is trying to assert its ideological supremacy, and then it leads to political mobilization and the rise of identity politics. Then you will also find in general public discourse talk about social media, where you have the algorithmic amplification of sensational content. A lot of news channels also tap into this because social media gives them anonymity to foster unchecked rate of speech. Then you have institutional framework. Every time a news on hate speech comes across, you will find the debates of the opposition targeting the present institutional framework to prevent hate speech. And what do a particular group who is allegedly violating or is creating hate speech, they use subjectivity to get away from it. So if I do this hate speech as a cycle, I can say it starts with majoritarianism. It's perpetuated by social media. Institutional framework is questioned, and the perpetrators use subjectivity to get away with it. Now, I can say basically hate speech means this particular cycle and is perpetuated along this. Now, find the reasons for these elements. Majoritarianism का major reason क्या है? Dominant group asserting ideological cultural supremacy leads to just the opposite of it, marginalization of minorities and normalization of discrimination. If you now go back to that answer and check the answer, you will see it has been very cleverly used, the consequences. Political unrest, communal riots, majoritarianism, social media, lack of institutional mechanism, and subjectivity. It has been very nicely used as the causes, which were basically in class, what do we teach them? As the elements of hate speech. This is where your answer gets the depth. You need not read 10 different newspapers, 15 different books. Remember, इसने क्या बोला, उसने क्या बोला. A basic understanding of how hate speech works. A conceptually strong understanding of hate speech works. And it gives you the depth. Now, these are the aspects which you again go into this. You will see chilling effect on free speech, legal ambiguity, perceived bias against the hate speech. These are the points which are then used in the other parts of the answer. But I'm sure many that particular year, hundreds of students must have read 200 pages on hate speech क्योंकि वो इतना न्यूज में था. But my strategy or our strategy at Samachar Manthan especially focuses on this half a page notes. और इस पे आप कोई भी क्वेश्चन पूछ लो, अगर स्पेसिफिकली सब्जेक्टिविटी पे क्वेश्चन आता है कि सब्जेक्टिविटी ऑफ हेट स्पीच amplifies the effect of it, analyze. Suppose this is the question, then also you have good amount of points to write, and then you place these points in different other parts of the answer. Am I clear till now? Now, if you have understood this, rest of the part and the Samachar Manthan immersion would become very easy. Okay, Karnika, you have raised your hand. I think they will upload it later on YouTube. Okay, अभी framework क्या है और intersection क्या है? Everybody have understood. So now we will step into your aspect. ये तो अभी तक था जो हमने किया था. But how do you develop this skill? Have you heard of the term wealth tax? If you're preparing for UPSC, wealth tax was in news constantly in the month of January. Has anybody heard of the term wealth tax? So wealth tax is basically taxing individuals who have an income above a certain level. बहुत generic sense में अगर मैं समझाऊं, it basically targets the super rich individuals. Now let's come back to the समाचार मंथन का flow. अभी wealth tax आप मेरे को बताइए, you all tell me, just write it down in the chat box. Wealth tax कौन से subject में included है? Kanika, wealth tax was once there in India. Right now, does not have wealth tax. But last month, in January 2025, the debate has restarted. Ki should India reintroduce wealth tax? Okay, first, okay, Meenakshi, okay. So everybody is clear that this is from economics. अभी economics के कौन से part में ये best fit बैठता है? Economics has various aspects in the syllabus if you see. Okay. Budget by budget, I would say it means taxation proposals. नहीं, इकोनॉमिक्स में कौन सा बैठता है? राकेश, फर्स्ट आंसर इकोनॉमिक्स में कहां पे? एक है टैक्सेशन, वेरी गुड. ताहा, दिस इज इंक्लूसिव ग्रोथ, राइट? अभी GS2 में डज इट हैव एनी इंटरसेक्शन बेस्ड ऑन द सिलेबस? प्लीज फील फ्री टू आंसर. GS2 में कहां पे इसका इंटरसेक्शन होता है? You just know the definition of wealth tax. GS2 में where does wealth tax fit in? Now GS2 has polity, governance, IR. Now, when the government is correct, Saqib, it's governance. How does it land up in governance? When the government is taxing individuals with wealth tax, that means it is going to use the extra money for welfare schemes. So this fits in here in the governance part directly under welfare schemes. Now, does it fit anywhere in GS1? Kanishka, Divya, Meenakshi, where does it fit in GS1? No, society. Tell me the particular part of society. Poverty alleviation, or if a question comes on inequality, probably it will fit in there. So now, do you realize you have created the multidimensional of this topic? What is the primary points which you are going to write for this answer? Which was your primary subject? That is GS3, which is taxation and inclusive growth. ये आपका primary aspect रहेगा. What are the secondary or the intermediate points where you are going to show your dimensions? Welfare schemes and poverty inequality. So this is your first dimension. This is your second subhead. This is your third subhead. Am I clear on this? Okay. Now next we'll take one more topic. It is data privacy. So which is the primary subject of data privacy? GS3, how? Okay, so I see two forms of content here. Right. So one, as somebody just said, Article 21, fundamental rights. And second is data security aspect, which I suppose you mean when you say GS3. And then the third aspect is the ethical concerns related to privacy. Am I clear? Now these are your three dimensions. Abhi dimensions एक बार, these are the intersections. Now analyze data privacy with respect to fundamental right or right to life. Then here you will get multiple points. Then analyze data privacy with respect to security. How does it compromise internal security? Data localization. Here are the points which will come. So you can use 3 as primary or 2 as primary depending upon the question. But now, is everybody clear? How do you generate dimensions and understand the theme of it? यहाँ पे आपको theme भी मिल गया. Data privacy का theme है Article 21. Puttoswamy judgment will come, and the recent data protection bill will then come. आपको सिलेबस के कौन से पार्ट से मैप करना है, ये स्किल अगर आ गया, देयर 50% ऑफ योर जॉब इज डन विथ रिस्पेक्ट टू आइडेंटिफाइंग द थीम एंड क्रिएटिंग डायमेंशंस. दैट डिपेंड्स ऑन टू थिंग्स प्रीतम. आपके पास टाइम कितना है एग्जाम में लिखने के लिए, एंड सेकेंड थिंग, क्वेश्चन कितना बड़ा है. इफ इट हैज से 3 पार्ट्स, you will write 5 to 6 points each. If it has 1 part, you will write 12 to 15 points each. Where this particular exercise will help you at the very beginning of your preparation. When you go on preparing each and every current affairs topic as this, then a time will come when you don't have to create this. It will become your second, or it will become your sixth sense. You just see a particular topic, then you move, अच्छा इसमें ये point लिखना है. Because this is the exercise which you have to create over a period of time. Just completing the content is the start of your preparation. This is where it gets interesting. Now, as promised, we'll be taking one or two burning issues. And this will basically be how we teach, or especially I teach in Samachar Manthan classes. And I'm pretty sure this year, Samachar Manthan people, whoever qualifies prelims, are going to really get a lot of marks in mains. So I'll start with the first burning issue. Now, this was something which came in live law. Right to access to justice is not absolute. This is what Supreme Court said when a particular person was filing baseless complaints in the court. News बस इतना ही है. If you say judiciary, so which is the topic here I take, पूरा headline से ही लो. What did Supreme Court tell? Right to access to justice. Right? So now I have access to justice as my topic. Where does it crisscross? GS2 में कहां पे होगा? Fundamental rights. Okay. Second, any other part? लक्ष्मीकांत का टेबल ऑफ कंटेंट याद कर. DPSP, judiciary, justice delivery, judiciary, right? Then what was the news? Right to access to justice is not absolute. Imposes rupees 1 lakh cost on litigant for multiple frivolous cases. PIL, very good. अंदर बैठेगा. PIL, judicial activism, restraint, आ गया ये सब polity. Now think about GS 1, 3, 4 में, where does it superimpose? GS2 तो हो गया. GS3 में और कहां पे होता है? Case studies हो गया. Tell something from the syllabus. What does it tell? Cost on litigant for multiple frivolous cases. second, which someone said, ethical concerns यहाँ पे आ रहे हैं. And when you're misutilizing PIL, which is especially there for the marginalized community, justice delivery for the marginalized section becomes difficult. तो ये डायरेक्टली यहाँ पे marginalized section की बात होती है, be it in society or in governance, this will come as a social barrier maybe. And then obviously it will raise the costs to speedily dispose of litigations. Someone said resource mobilization. But if you see here, there is a clear differentiator between the number of points you got in GS2 and the number of points we tried to get. Number of points you got in GS2 and the number of points we tried to get in other GS papers. That means this particular topic has to be dealt more from the GS2 perspective. This is the second learning from today. कि मतलब हमको ये वाला फ्रेमवर्क पता है, उसका मतलब ये नहीं है कि कुछ भी लाके उसके अंदर डालते रहे. Just when you start making this exercise for rest of the topics, this is way in favor of GS2. So obviously you will read this constantly from GS2 perspective and you'll add some more points from notes या कुछ. Understood? This is how you're going to set the limit. जिसने पूछा ना अभी कि how many points are we going to write? This is how you're going to set the limit कि where is my barrier? No, Meenakshi, it is not expecting you to write GS1 content in GS2 or GS3, but it is expecting you to analyze a GS2 questions from 4 different angles. जैसे access to justice. Access to justice has a direct impact on article. Let me do this exercise which I did in class. Access to justice. It has a direct impact on Article 21. What is Article 21? Right to life. Abhi, if you say life, right to life mostly is affected of whom? Who are the most vulnerable sections? The marginalized sections who cannot access justice delivery system. So here you start from access to justice, but reach here. Now, if the marginalized cannot get proper justice delivery, what does it affect? It affects good governance. The more questions you ask with every point, the more dimensions you're going to create, and your answer is going to look even more comprehensive, holistic, and well sorted. ये वाला पार्ट क्लियर है कि इसमें हमारा मेजर फोकस रहेगा GS2 with slight focus on GS4 and GS1. Okay. Now, once we have developed the intersections, now it's about framework. Access to justice जब हम बोलते हैं तो उसके एलिमेंट्स क्या क्या होंगे? It's very simple. You need not know any book for just general awareness. That is why the UPSC paper is general awareness. First is availability of legal remedies. It should be available. It should be affordable. And I should be aware of it. Along with it, the procedures and the process should be fair, should not have a bias towards anybody. Then it should be accessible both ways, physically and legally. It includes the ability to physically approach the courts. After approaching the courts, you should also have adequate legal representation. Now, these are the basic elements of right to access to justice which we take up. Now, imagine a question coming. Right to access to justice is compromised by many other factors than just economic reasons. Explain. So suppose this is the question. Now what you have is the framework for right to access to justice. You don't have anything else. Say you have just studied this much. अभी right to access to justice के elements क्या क्या है? Affordability, availability, fair procedures, awareness, physical and legal access. Economic factors. So you start it with affordability. Key affordability is one of the major economic reasons. But other than that, what are the reasons? That those are availability, awareness, fair procedures, and physical and legal access. You have this much of points with all the substantiation and data, and you write your answer. Am I clear on this? Ki why these elements actually help us? It makes your job very easy. You study 6 points, you write it in any answer. I'll show you one better trick now. Suppose the question now is, pendency of cases has its roots in poor implementation of right to access to justice. Explain. Now you just write down these points, and the question is telling pendency of cases has its roots here. So you link it कि pendency of cases किस किस चीजों की वजह से हो सकता है amongst the elements of right to access to justice. You have your answer because उसका explanation है आप. Yes, you can use the same dimensions here. That is why I have again made one more aspect. Now these are the direct exercises from Burning Issues. Burning Issue magazine, I think the link would be available to you. Now, what are the barriers to access to justice? Social barriers, economic and legal barriers. What are social barriers? Caste discrimination, lack of awareness, education, gender discrimination. In economic barriers, you have 4 different aspects. The more you think on a particular topic, the more dimensions you're going to generate. Then you come to steps taken by the government. You saw Animesh's answer there, where he talked about institutions, acts, commissions. This is what the framework is. Because mostly what people do is they remember this, and while writing answer, it's very distorted and unstructured. But here, you will organize them into 4 aspects. Now, I'll tell you one more aspect. This was second burning issue. So again in January, UGC released its new draft guidelines, which gave powers to chancellors to constitute a panel to appoint vice chancellors. Now, this basically was taking away powers of state as the states alleged. Now, if I have to write new UGC guidelines, same exercise if we do again. ये first कहाँ पे effect होगा? UGC guidelines, education. Education is in governance. I write it here. Education में कौन सा part? Higher education. Other aspect. Education is also, अभी education आ गया मतलब society but obvious आ गया. और education आ गया मतलब again GS3 में human development आ गया. But this is again primary and these are secondary. Now in this is the first aspect. Education का आपने कर लिया. अभी इसका दूसरा एस्पेक्ट है फेडरलिज्म और सेंटर स्टेट रिलेशंस. Now you are going to generate themes. How? Someone asked me in one of my previous webinars, so this is just for that question. ये तो current affairs news है. What are the guidelines? UGC draft regulations का merits क्या है? Challenges क्या है? These are the basic. ये यहाँ तक हर जगह आपको कोई भी वेबसाइट में मिल जाएगा, कोई भी मटेरियल में मिल जाएगा. Now you are identifying theme, which is where your UPSC preparation goes a level higher. इसमें हमने लिस्ट डाउन किया फेडरलिज्म इज अ पार्ट और यहां पे एजुकेशन है. तो हाउ हैज फेडरलिज्म affected education or how has education played out within the center state ambit? This is how the questions are framed in UPSC, where it requires the next level of analysis. आपने एक बार वो फ्लो बना लिया, उसके बाद देन अब बस क्रिस क्रॉस करो टॉपिक्स को और सोचो कि कौन से मेजर टॉपिक्स जनरेट हो रहे हैं. दिस इज हाउ आई गॉट दिस. मेजर डिबेट क्या है? स्टेट्स का मेजर डिबेट क्या है कि दे वांट ऑटोनॉमी. एंड व्हाट डू द सेंटर वांट? द सेंटर वांट्स इन दिस केस यूनिफॉर्मिटी. So uniformity versus autonomy in education became a federal issue. Then you analyze that with respect to federalism. What are the key features of federalism? Basic Lakshmikant content, concurrent list, overlapping jurisdiction, predominance of union laws, residual powers with union. Whenever you read for prelims, इसी के रट्टे मारते रहते हो आप. Then how uniformity and autonomy plays out, you are going to analyze on the basis of these factors. So what I want you all to take from today's webinar is two aspects. One is dimensions कैसे generate करना है. दूसरा, how to identify the theme. And your mains preparation is sorted for. Else you come and meet me in Civilsdaily every Saturday. I come here and teach.